Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I don't speak your language, so this is the most I can do in your language. By the way, if you recognize the city where I shoot this picture, you will get a free coffee from me. It's on the coast. What I can tell you is on the coast of Croatia. No, you tell afterward. There is another picture at the end that gives you a second hint about this. So, I'm not a developer, and this should be clear. So I will do my best in answering technical questions, but I'm not a developer. While I'm an old marketing guy, and you should never fully trust an old marketing guy. So this is just to tell you what you can expect from me. How many of you are using LibreOffice? Are you happy with that? Be very candid. We are working hard. It's difficult to get in 6 months the heritage of a project that was 10 years old. And of course, we are working to make the process better. We are working to make the development process better. We are working to improve the process behind the community. I've heard Mark Shuttleworth telling a few things about LibreOffice. I will tell you about LibreOffice exactly the opposite of what Mark told you. He probably has spoken with someone that was maybe a member of the project, was not an official spokesperson. I'm the official spokesperson. So what I say about the project is what the project thinks. Of course, this is an open source project, a free software project. We don't force anyone to say things if he does not believe in these things. We have a steering committee. The steering committee is the expression of the document foundation today. In the future, when the foundation will be set, the steering committee will be replaced by a board of directors. The board of directors will have a spokesperson to express officially the position of the foundation. We think that this is important because in a diverse world as the open source world, there are many opinions, many people, of course, they have their own ideas. We respect their ideas. We accept the contribution from everyone, even people that do not fully share our ideas, just because this is a free software project. It's not Microsoft. It's a different kind of story. So and I'm not mentioning Microsoft by chance. I'll show you something about Microsoft just shortly later. So what we have today, we use this tagline. Freedom has never been so sweet. Of course, it's a very English tagline, but I think that gives the idea of what LibreOffice wants to be. LibreOffice wants to be a real free software productivity suite for the desktop of today, for the desktop of tomorrow. We want, and this means that what you see today is not what you and I and we all will see in the future, because we all know that the desktop is changing. Mobile is bringing a different paradigm to the desktop, and of course we have to take, to consider this evolution and to understand what it may mean. It's not easy to port a huge piece of software like LibreOffice on a mobile platform today. We are cleaning the software, we are cleaning the code to make it more agile and to make it possible in the future to have a deployment on different platforms. It's not possible today. It will, I hope, as not a developer, I say it might be possible in the future, but I strongly hope that the community and the community of developers will be able to give the community of users a nice piece of software able to run on different platforms and on the platform then users want to use, because what we want is a piece of software that users like and that users use. Sometimes user will curse the software, but this is happening with all software. When the software doesn't work, me as a user, I say, hey, come on, why you're not doing what I want? Because I'm not a developer. So, and sometimes I try to file a bug, and the developers tell me, Italo, please tell us what it doesn't work, because if you file a bug, we don't understand where the bug is. So the story is open versus closed. You all know the advantages of the open world. You all know the advantages of having a community that works around a piece of software. Mark before told that there should be a company behind LibreOffice, and I would say that there should be many companies behind LibreOffice, not just one company, but there should be many companies able to provide added value behind the product and to make money based on the added value. What has happened in the past is that there was a company that wanted to make money selling licenses, and we all know that a license is not adding value to the software. Value to the software is adding migration services, for instance, for people that want to switch from Microsoft Office to LibreOffice, is adding development of macros, because not every user is able to develop his own macro to make processes automatic in the spreadsheet, for instance. So there should be companies able to provide macro development, to provide extension development, to provide training services, to provide support. And our intention as the foundation is to provide a process that certifies companies to provide these services. So the user will recognize companies that are able to add value and have been certified to add value around LibreOffice. And we think that this is the right business model for open source software, not having just one company that charges you for licenses, because the experience of the OpenOffice.org project showed that only a very tiny amount of people were buying StarOffice licenses and have been buying Oracle OpenOffice licenses, apart from the name Oracle OpenOffice that I think no one liked very much, especially in the community of people that contributed to the development of the OpenOffice.org brand, because that was a kind of hijacking the brand that the community created. Anyway, I'm sure that you don't know how the house of a Microsoft employee looks like. It looks like this. So they have to change at least one window in the house to show that they belong to the company. And this means that they're, we have a freedomometer, and this guy is at 0 level when it's about freedom. Legends say that when one of his the people left for Google, he was so free to do that he threw a 70-kilo chair behind him. This is real freedom. While we have changed the icons because we think that the icons are part of our branding, and we want to give nice and colorful icons. And of course, if you look at the freedomometer of our icons, it's exactly at 100%, but this is a joke, of course. You all know what happened with OpenOffice. OpenOffice is a 10-year-old project. Actually, these are the official dates. So the Oracle acquired Sun on January 27 is the conclusion of the acquisition process. It's not the announcement of the acquisition process. That the announcement of the acquisition process was in 2009. And if we look, we do some digging into the Oracle balance sheet, or even better, I don't know if you're familiar with the SEC files, the stock exchange filing documents that you have to provide to the control organism of the New York Stock Exchange. There is one document that is called Form 10Q, is a technical name. And in 2009 and 2010, the Form 10Q of that Oracle filed to the New York Stock Exchange has no mention of OpenOffice.org. So the reality is that Oracle decided to let's say, dismiss or end the project in whatever way in 2009 when the acquisition was announced, because there's no trace of OpenOffice in that document. And that document says exactly to the stock exchange which are the piece of software that are strategic for the company, which are the software and the risks which have to do with the software, the opportunities, and so on. Inside that document, there is MySQL, there is Java, there are other software. There's no OpenOffice, and there's no mention of ODF as well. So there's no mention of the format. So we should make it clear that the reason why the Document Foundation was founded is not to fight Oracle. No one wants to fight someone you work with for 10 years. We will miss the Oracle developers for two reasons. They were, and some of them, they are still working at a remarkable piece of software. We have all been users of OpenOffice for 10 years. We cannot forget this. So they are very good developers. They've done a very good job. Different from what the developers at the Document Foundation are doing, just because there was a company telling them what to do, and here there is a community that decides what to do. So of course, if the company you're working for tells you not to develop a feature, you don't develop that feature, even if the community asks for the feature. Now, we will try to develop the feature that the community asks us to develop. And we will miss the Oracle developers for a second reason. They're all friends. We have met at the OpenOffice conferences for years. We have drank a lot of beers around tables. We have discussed. We have sometimes have hard discussion, but not because we hated each other, because we had different opinions. So different opinions are precious to improve the project. So we will miss the Oracle developers, and I will try to find who has told Mark that we don't miss them, because we will miss them a lot. And I think the first reason is that I will miss them not being a developer is because they are friends, and in this time they are in trouble. And I really don't like other people to be in trouble because of their job. And we really would like them to find a job quickly. We still don't know after 15 days. There's not been an announcement by Oracle that makes it clear what is going to happen to the Hamburg division. They're all based in Hamburg, in Germany. We would really like to know what happens, because we would really like to engage them as contributors at first, and if possible, of course, give some of them a paid work. At the moment, we are not in the position of doing this, but we would really like to do this, because we strongly miss their contribution. We should never forget the fact that they are the authors of most of the nice features that there are in OpenOffice. So this to make very clear that we did not start the Document Foundation to fight OpenOffice. We started the Document Foundation because after 10 years, the community was mature, did grow up. People like me was nothing to do with development, but as a business background and a marketing background have entered the community and contributed to the community. I'm not the only one. Of course, there are people with different skills around the world and different skills from development. So the community matured. There were managers, there were people that did work in managing position at large enterprises. And so the discussion inside the community were completely different from the discussion that there were 10 years ago. The discussion were about business models. The discussion were about the evolution. The discussion were about the finding a way to make the project sustainable, because it was clear to everyone that the project was not sustainable because there was a company, Sun, pouring a lot of money inside the project, but not making enough money to justify the project to its shareholders. And we all know what happened to Sun because of this model. It is very unfortunate because we all would have liked Sun to go over and over. But the problem is that in a world where most of the economy relies on what is discussed in the stock exchange, we cannot assume that the open source world is different. The open source world is inside this economy, and being inside this economy is subject to the law of this economy. Even if we don't like all of this law, we don't like the fact that analysts will change the destiny of a company based on their quarterly announcement, but this is what we have today, and this is what we have to cope with today. So we wanted to celebrate together 10 years, but we were not able to do that, because when we offered Oracle to change the structure of the project to make it a real community-based project, like they have said a couple of weeks ago, contributing to the project, but not only contributing, also developing together with the community a business model able to sustain the project. You all know that Oracle said that they didn't want to follow us. And so we had to fork the project. We had to fork, and while we would have liked to maintain the same name and maintain the same brand and maintain the same history, and go over for another 10 years probably, changing a little bit how the community was structured, changing the way that company were contributing, changing the way the copyright was asked to developers, because there was a copyright assignment asked. Yes, this is one of the different ways you can sustain dual licensing. Is not the only one. So it could be changed using a different license. LibreOffice is a dual license project, is LGPL and is MPL, and the MPL allows to do something very similar to the proprietary license that was managed by Sun and by Oracle. So what happened is that our rocket seagull was, in a sense, roasted. And actually, this is not a seagull. If you're worried, we didn't roast a seagull to make the picture. This is a pigeon. Okay, but no one can understand that it's a pigeon and not a seagull. They're all made more or less the same. So the community, there was a community. The community was quite strong. There was a management of the community that was not recognized by Oracle was not formally recognized. There were people in the community that had managing role that were visible in mailing lists, that were visible at conferences, were not recognized by the community officially because the community council was elected and chosen by the company. And of course, the company wanted to choose the people that were able to, let's say, service the company in the best way. So the community started to discuss. Actually, the discussion started a long, long way ago. I think the first discussion were in a city in Slovenia, in Koper or Capodistria in 2005, the first discussion. And this discussion were started by a number of developers that were complaining about the code that was not clean enough. And therefore, the people at Sun took the project or started to analyze the code. And at Lyon in 2006 in France, Michael Bemmer, who was the managing director of the business unit in Hamburg, made a presentation where there was written the sentence code cleaning. So what we have started in 2010 is really something that was started to be discussed inside the community in 2005 and even written in a presentation in 2006. And if you don't believe me, and you shouldn't because I'm an old marketing guy, you should go to the Lyon conference. I invite you to go to the Lyon conference website, it's still online, and download the Michael Bemmer presentation. It's called OpenOffice 2.0 and Beyond, and you will see that this special time, I'm telling the truth. So, how many of you are contributing to LibreOffice? Okay, someone. So let's say why you should. I like this picture very, very much. You will find this picture in all my presentation. I love it. It was done by a friend of mine that is an American guy. As I've told you, I'm a marketing guy. Actually, I'm a professional public relation officer. And this gentleman is working in one of the largest public relations agencies in the world. It's called Edelman. David has the incredible capability of making visual images and visual messages. I think the umbrella that is reversed and becomes a ball is an incredible message. So if you think that this is an open source project with a single sponsor. The single sponsor is the umbrella. And you are under the umbrella, and the umbrella sometimes or often protects and covers, but then in many cases it becomes an alibi not to do things. Because you say, you know, this is, the company will think about it. The company will do that, and the company will develop the software, and someone will look after this bug. And yes, but the marketing is done by the company, and I think that marketing done by Sun was a real experience, I think the worst experience I had in my life in terms of marketing. While if you are in a ball, the ball, of course, you can look at the ball in any way you prefer. My preferred way of looking at the ball is a kind of a ship, a canoe. If the people that are in the canoe, they don't row, or they row only on one side, the canoe goes around. If the people row, everyone rows in the same direction, the canoe goes forward. So I think that a real and a good open source project, a free open source project like LibreOffice and like the Document Foundation, what we want to achieve is exactly to give you the mixing bowl. to allow everyone to bring in his own perspective, his own ideas, his own contribution in every possible field. We are looking for developers, but we are looking for people able to sustain the community. We are looking for marketers, although you have to work with me, and this may not be a good experience sometimes. We are looking for people in the documentation. We are looking for people in all the areas. You don't need to be a hard coder to work inside our project. The project has the objective of becoming extremely big, and so there's really space for everyone. You have 1 hour per week, you can do something. You have 10 hours per week, you can do more. We respect everyone, and if you look at the bylaws we have written, the bylaws really try to recognize the merit of people, not for the amount of work what they're doing, but for the level of involvement that they have. It may be really short time, but it has to be ongoing. We want it to be ongoing. We want to have a stable project, not a project where people is coming and going. Of course, you might be going because we all have a family, we all have a work, we all have other activities, but we want to have a stable project where everyone is able to contribute. And I think that this is very true. The future belongs to the people that are willing to get the hands dirty. So, of course, when you get your hand dirty, sometimes you are wrong. We all may make mistakes. We are not perfect. We don't think to be perfect. Sometimes we don't say things which are correct. The diversity is an advantage if you look at it in the right way. So what we are looking, for instance, this was FOSDEM. I don't know if you're familiar with FOSDEM. It's an open source developers meeting in Brussels. We had a very large, by FOSDEM parameters, a large booth, and we had a huge amount of interest around us. And we had people coming and listening to our presentation. But also in areas where traditionally OpenOffice was weak, like the United States. This is Scale in Los Angeles. Scale is Southern California Linux Expo. And we had some volunteers flying to Los Angeles and manning our booth there and trying to explain what we want to achieve with LibreOffice. And the US community is developing slowly but nicely. And it was an area where OpenOffice was never able to take off because of the umbrella effect of Sun over the United States. As there is Sun that is a large US corporation, why there should be volunteers after OpenOffice? Sun is taking care of OpenOffice. At the end, what happened is that Sun didn't take care of OpenOffice, the community didn't take care of OpenOffice. And the United States are one of the countries where OpenOffice is less known at all. The market where OpenOffice is more popular are in Europe. They are Germany, France, and Italy. UK is another problem. Spain is another problem. Because we have never developed local community, or we have never been able as a project, or the project has never been able to develop local communities in some countries. And where the local community has been developed was because of several individuals coming together, and it's not just by chance that Germany, France, and Italy are the three countries where there is a local association, a local ONG that is also an association that was taking care of OpenOffice. So LibreOffice started, this is the splash screen of the beta release. We released a beta on September 28, 2010. I've already told you why we want to give a real free software suite to everyone. So today on desktops, in the future probably on other platforms. It is vendor neutral. At the moment, we have several companies backing the project with developers. One of them is Red Hat, which is represented by Jan, but there are others. Jan is there. You see the fedora, the red fedora is very clear. We have Novell, we have Debian, we have Canonical. These are all companies or projects that are sponsoring at least one developer. Google, with some Google Summer of Code, they will also be a member of our advisory committee. At the end, the Document Foundation will have a structure which is going to be quite similar, not very, but quite similar to the GNOME Foundation. So there will be an advisory board where companies will be able to provide advice to the community, and this is the way companies will be able to ask for features, ask for deployments, ask for platforms, and of course, they will have, if they want something very specific, they will be asked money for the development, or they will have to provide developers. We have already started talking with some large government body. Of course, it takes time. Several people tell us, look, in 6 months you've done nothing. And if you look at what we have done, I think that we have achieved an incredible amount of work. It's easy to say that we have done nothing if you're not in the project. Today, we have an infrastructure that is able to sustain itself independently from the infrastructure of the OpenOffice project. And this is a first achievement. We have servers, mirrors, we have the mailing lists, we have development servers, we have all the necessary stuff. It was no easy, it's all done by volunteers. It takes time, unfortunately. It takes a lot of time to set up the foundation. When you start a project, an open source project, you realize that bureaucracy is the same for free project and for proprietary project. And the difference is that a proprietary project can hire a lawyer that works full-time on the development, while a free software project is based on volunteers, so volunteers have to do the work that the paid lawyer does, and it takes more time, of course. Anyway, we are close to having all the paper in place. The foundation will be set in Germany. The reason it will be set in Germany is easy. The German community has been the first and the more quick, we can say, to switch from OpenOffice to LibreOffice. We have more people there also because we have many developers who are German. Many of them used to be OpenOffice developers and now work at other companies but are based in Germany. So that makes Germany and a German foundation that is called a Stiftung a very good choice, also in terms of stability. Once it's set, it's going to be extremely difficult for a single company to take control of the foundation. And we really don't want a single company to take control of the foundation, although we would really like many companies to back up the foundation and to help the foundation in providing software. So this is what we have done in the last 8 months. LibreOffice 3.4 is going to be available at the end of May. The process of the beta process of the 3.4 has not been the easiest one. The first betas were quite disappointing. It happens, I think. This is the reason why, announcing Beta 5, we have decided to announce also kind of reading sheet for the people. Of course, if you are a developer, you can install whatever you want. If you are a technical guy, you can install whatever you want. You are there, beta or release candidate. You are in control. If you see a blank screen, you don't panic. So you can easily install that. If it doesn't work, you can file a bug. You help a lot the community to grow the software. I'm in this area. If I see a blank screen, I usually reformat the hard disk from scratch. This is the best solution for a technically literate like me. I'm considered a power user, but bear in mind that I'm 57. I was born in another era. I wrote my thesis on a typewriter that today looks like weird. And I have a degree in humanities, so I'm not technical at all. Although I've been working in high-tech marketing for 30 years, but please bear with me. My neurons have started to escape when I was 22. I'm 57. If you do a quick calculation, you understand that I have very few neurons left in my head. So I'm here. This means that once the more stable releases are out, you are able or you are invited to install them to make a real-life test. It will be stable. Maybe some uncommon behavior, but it's going to be stable. If you want to go only in production, so if you need to deploy the software in a large company, if you need to deploy the software in a stable environment, then you have to look at what we call a point release. It's going to be the 3.4.1, not the 3.4.0. It's the 3.4.1. That is going to be stable enough for deployment. I think that this is just a way of showing people that we are transparent. The release process is time-based. So the time-based release forces us to give a better way of understanding it to other people. We are not developing a new version after 9 months working inside our labs. We are doing that in the open. All the bugs, everyone can see all the bugs. Everyone can see the discussion on the mailing list. So it's quite transparent. We have 2 mailing lists which are private. But I think that sometimes you need to discuss something private, but 2 out of probably 100 is very limited. And by the way, after a certain time, contributors they can access private mailing lists. So it's let's say, semi-transparent. Because what happened with the first beta is that several people installed that, and especially on Windows, where we use free software tools to package the software. So it's not, the Windows version is not compiled using Microsoft tools. It's compiled using free software tools. And this, of course, makes it more challenging, because we all know that the Windows environment works probably better if it is done inside the Microsoft closed way of doing it. But we want to make everyone in the future, we want to make everyone able to compile LibreOffice if he has enough time and a PC. Just because we want to make the project solid, and we want to be able to replace quickly people that will be leaving, because there will be people that will be leaving in the future. If the project goes on for years, we all can expect to have an evolution of this project. and people leaving and people going on and doing different things, changing company, changing interests, and so on. So what are our developers doing? This is the ESC, the Engineering Steering Committee. It has not yet been announced. It's going to be announced in the next few days. It's not a secret. These are the people inside it. As you see, there are people from Red Hat, Canonical, Novell, and there are independent. By the way, this gentleman, Norbert Thiebaud, is a French guy living in Texas, has started to code LibreOffice on October 1st, 2010. So in 8 months, he's a member of the Engineering Steering Committee. Of course, he's a senior developer, is someone very able to start working on a code base he was not knowing at all, but this gives you the feeling that it's not a closed project. We have independent guys that are there and are now they're able to contribute to the future of the software, even if 8 months ago they were not even thinking about working on the suite. It takes some months, but I think this is a demonstration that we are going in the right direction. These are the numbers. On September 28, probably we had around 20 coders. These are the core ones, mostly by Novell, Red Hat, and the others, the Debian one. Now we have around the project, there is a community of around 180 developers or code contributors, if you prefer. Some of them are just occasional, but very occasional, so I didn't even count them. So people that just file a bug and say, this is, according to me, is the patch just once, are not there. We have 40 volunteers, independent ones, that are working on EasyAxe. We'll see them later on patches and features. And 60 occasional, but occasional, let's say, occasional, it means once a month, once every 2 weeks. It's not occasional once a year. So we are around 120 developers of different skills. This, of course, is not comparable with the situation at OpenOffice, where the number of developers was higher than 30, was probably in the region of 50. They were full-time, they were paid, they were working on a single code base. This is people, most of these people, during the day, they work on other codes, and in the evening work on LibreOffice, or vice versa. They can work whenever they want. Number of paid developers is small. We are looking, of course, to increase all layers of contribution. And if you look at the development process, it's very easy. It's like this. It's an open development process. Of course, before a feature gets into the software, there is going to be a senior developer checking it. You cannot, if you are just an occasional developer, you cannot think about filing something without anyone looking at the code, but the process is very open. So everyone is able to provide a patch, to provide a feature, to work on EasyAxe. And this is how the number of developers is going. If you're curious about that, this is Christmas. And of course, at Christmas, no one was developing LibreOffice. They were eating turkey or any other stuff. And I think I was eating panettone in Milan as well. But you see that is quite a healthy project. Of course, the number of contribution in the first months was very high because there was a lot of code cleaning going on. So what are developers doing? These are the EasyAxe. EasyAxe are accessible to anyone, not to me, but to most of people having a little bit of technology technological skills. The problem is that the code at OpenOffice was increased during 10 years, but it was not maintained during 10 years. It was maintained for the areas where maintenance was compulsory because it was generating problems. But if it wasn't generating problems, the code was there. So after 10 years, there were libraries that were deprecated 5 years ago and still there. There were comments in German that, of course, do not make it easy for someone not speaking German to contribute to the software. So the comments in German have been either translated or taken away if they were useless. And this is a lot of work, and these are, I think, tens of thousands of lines which have been changed. This, of course, creates some problems. But I think it was a process that we had to go through anyway. So if you look at the pages, this is the Easy Act page in its entirety. I think it's 10 meters long if you go access the website. But as developers realized that it was too long, they made a summarized version. So basically this page is exactly this page with a summary. But what is good is that you find also a completed hack page. So it means that, and this is quite long as well, so it means that they're working well, they're working hard, they're working at finding things, at cleaning the code, and I warmly invite you all to look at these pages to find a place that you consider challenging for you, and you start having a look at it. It's easy, you have a page that is LibreOffice Easy Acts, and you have Easy Acts completed. So if you just Google about LibreOffice Easy Acts, you find the page. What user can do, because of course we don't look only for developers, but if you're a user, what you can do? File bugs. I usually file the bug that, like it doesn't work, so this is what developers do not like about me. But I say, if I understand that it doesn't work, or I have done already something for my level of skills. There is even for users, there is a large amount of things that you can do. Of course, if you are a developer, you can work at this. We have also a number of projects inside the Google Summer of Code which have been accepted, and they're going to be announced in the next weeks. So we will have some students working at some code projects, and they're sponsored by Google. But what other volunteers can do? You can do testing. Testing is important. Testing means that you offer real-life test of the product. LibreOffice is very large as a software. When you deploy this software, you have many features, and according to the operating system, to the fonts installed, to the other software installed, you can have different behaviors. And it's very important to test it in real life situations, just to show that if fonts, printers, screens, and so on, they work in every situation. Then you have localization. I think that there are already some people working at the localization of LibreOffice in Croatian, but you never have enough people working at this. And even looking at the menus if they have been translated or properly, and helping the people is just, you need to know English and Croatian, and you need to be patient to find a way of translating strings in a way that they stay within the acceptable length. But is usually a large process Localization teams usually work also at translating the website and usually work also at translating documentation. Then you may have graphics. So if you have graphic skills, there is a team, and being the graphic team is the only one with a splash screen, of course. They have created picture of themselves. These are the guys that are contributing to our graphic aspect. Actually, Paulo is the Brazilian guy. He started to contribute in January and is the author of the new icons. So in a very short time, he's a professional designer. In a very short time, he took the design of the icons that was made by Christophe and Bernard, and it brought up one level. So the icons are designed we have them in 3D, the right shading, the right colors, and so on. Then you have the web. You can write content of the web. You can write in the English, and you can write in your own language. Then you have documentation, and then you have marketing. But as I've told you, you have to work with me, and this sometimes might not be a very pleasant experience. You have to ask to other marketing guys in the project. If I'm nice or not, I won't tell you. This, for instance, is just released. The US community has made a DVD in 3 languages, because in North America there are 3 languages, because it's English, French for Canada, and Spanish for a lot of areas, many areas in the United States. So they've made a DVD in 3 languages with documentation, with all the software inside. And this, of course, is a mock-up, but this is something that is going to be used at exhibition, is going to be distributed at meetings in the United States. This is all volunteer work. No one in the team is a paid person. Of course, everyone is free to contribute to make the DVD design better, to make the paper better, but this is what a community is. Of course, the project is still young, so we need people. Not only we need people, but we need to improve the process. We have some process that are still need, let's say, a little bit rusty, and they need to become better. But I think we are on the right track. So what we are doing now is that on the code, there is a process for improving the code. But on the governance, we have raised, 100 euro key for setting the legal entity. The legal entity, by the way, costs 50,000 euros, so we will use the other for other tasks. We have published the bylaws, and the membership process has just started. So now we have, I think, around 70 official members of the Document Foundation. And every person that is willing to contribute and is recognized for his contribution can file for membership and can be accepted as a member. So I think that our icons are in the right position to, we have changed the seagull, the rocket seagull. Now we have a rocket paper plane that will hopefully take off. And I've finished. If you have questions, I will answer even the silly ones, as you see. And this is, again, the Croatian. Someone told, I think, Trogir, you deserve a coffee. That was Trogir or Trau for the Italian speaking, but I'm the only Italian speaking here, so we say Trogir. Ah, allora siamo in due. Ok. Ok, basta. Ok, that's all. It's too much. Yeah, 3 Italians is too much. Even dangerous, 3 Italians in the same room, you know. Okay, so if you have questions, I know that you like very much your flag, so I think that having your flag in front of you is appropriate for your question. Actually, I like very much your flag because it shows your history. I didn't know it. Last year I was in Croatia and I had friends that explained me the history behind the flag, and it's very interesting. And I think it's very nice that you are so proud of showing it around, because it gives a background of your country.
Questions?
They're all scared by the old marketing guy. But actually, I'm a nice person, I can tell you. I'm just joking when I say that I'm nasty. You know, it's, you have to do some jokes. So, okay.
The question is, are you scared of software patents?
Sorry? Software patents? Software patents.
Because with Oracle, there is a kind of backlog, software patents, without Oracle.
So the software patents subject is unfortunately a very thorny field. Anyway, we are part of the Open Innovation Network, so that should cover. I always will use a should and because when you're dealing with software patents, you are never sure of anything. But let's say that the Open Innovation Network should cover a number, or should protect LibreOffice from a number of patents that are owned by large corporations. But I don't know how much you are familiar with the decision from the Department of Justice and the Bundeskartellamt about the CPTN acquisition. CPTN is the consortium made by Microsoft, Oracle, Apple, and EMC that has been formed to acquire 800 and something patents from Novell. So that acquisition was investigated by the Department of Justice in the United States, and I have been a witness for the Department of Justice, and from the Bundeskartellamt in Germany, because SUSE is because of SUSE background in Germany. And the Department of Justice and the Bundeskartellamt decided that recognize the role of open source software, or free software, in the development of software, or in the progress of software in general. And they said that software patents cannot be used in the specific CPTN acquisition against open source project. And actually, software patents that have been acquired by proprietary software companies have to be released with I think a GPL2, Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with a GPL2 license. I think that this is a key decision for the protection of free software, not only because it basically protects free software project from these 800 patents, but it's also a decision made by 2 large governments that recognize the fact that free software is instrumental for the progress of software, and software patents cannot be used to keep free software project behind. So, of course, it does not protect officially against all the patents owned by Microsoft, owned by Oracle, owned by other companies. But of course, it will make easier in the future to defend free software projects because they have been recognized as instrumental for the progress of software. And therefore, every proprietary company that is going to use patents to attack a free software project will have to deal with the Department of Justice and with the Bundeskartellamt, or with other government that will recognize that they cannot do anything different, that they will have to recognize the decision of the Department of Justice. Of course, this is not, I will never say that this guarantees us 100%, but I think it's a very key decision because in the past, not a single decision from these bodies was mentioning, and I invite you to look at the Department of Justice press release that you can find on the Department of Justice website, because it explains very well the concept that patents cannot be used against free software. Of course, unless, and they're lawyers, Department of Justice people are lawyers, so if you read the decision, you will not, I didn't understand basically anything. Reading the press release, I understood something, but I'm sure that lawyers, Carlo Piana, who is a friend of mine, and I think many of you know by name, told me that it's a very good decision and it's a very good background to defend free software in the future. And if Carlo tells me this, I tend to trust him. He's not an old marketer, so I tend to trust him.
Next question.
There is one up there, and then we go here.
Could you speculate what will happen with the LibreOffice org after the Oracle ceased commercial development, and how they will influence the commercial form of LibreOffice org, which is all the simpler? Will they now support LibreOffice and contribute to development?
I would like to be able to give an answer. I'm not. Sorry. Any answer would be a speculation, and we have, as I told before, we have 120 friends that are waiting an answer, have been waiting an answer for 15 days, and I don't want to make a speculation on 120 friends that are really under, Damocles sword because no one understands what is going to happen to them. I would really like to tell that the project will merge, but unfortunately I cannot. Sorry.
Next.
What is your stance on popularizing open document format as a truly open format apart from LibreOffice as a program suite? I mean, just popularizing use of open formats in other program suites. I mean, popularizing, for example, ODF plugins for Microsoft Office and things like that.
The question is about the supporting and make ODF more popular. ODF is a very good standard, is improving. ODF 1.2 has been approved. It should become an ISO standard soon. It's now let's say that the responsibilities at ISO is not anymore at Oasis. The Document Foundation people are in the board of Oasis, so we are contributing to the development of ODF. Of course, we cannot ignore the fact that Microsoft has been trying to slow down the process by having their own standard, which is an ISO standard as well. We all know how it has been approved, and I don't want to enter into the merit of that approval process. The fact is that governments are far more governments are recognizing ODF than Office OpenXML, which is the Microsoft standard. And I think is a political, the adoption now is more a political problem than a technology problem, because you know, politicians are the best at staying in between different positions without taking any stance for a single position. So they, on one side, they say that ODF is very good, that you have to use ODF, but then on the other side, they end up signing a contract for I don't know how many seats in a government for Microsoft Office. And this, of course, makes the two decisions not compatible, because you have one standard and then you use a software that is, yes, supporting the standard, but is not supporting it in a native way, is supporting it as a secondary choice on the Office OpenXML standard.
Very short question that for ODF, 1.2 has just been released after long years. Oasis, together with LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Red Hat, Novell, etc., does so-called hackathons, where we bring together people implementing ODF, which we have done 4 times so far. And the next one is also already planned. So we're working hard on promoting ODF far outside of the own systems.
Yeah, but what I was telling in that the adoption that should be driven by governments is still a long process to go, unfortunately. There are regions where ODF has been set by law, but is still at regional level, not at national level. There's not a single national government that has said that all national documents have to be exchanged in ODF. Croatia is ODF?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't apply it anymore.
You see, there is always a trick with politicians.
This is not a political decision, this is decision of the Institute for the Standards.
Ah, okay. Yeah, but the Institute for Standards, you know, that is the same as in Italy and in other countries. So the Standard Institute says that you should use ODF. Then the political, what I mentioned is that there are laws. For instance, I know better the situation in Italy. In Italy, there are three regions where the regional law says that you have to use ODF. These are Umbria, Emilia-Romagna, and Lombardia. The only region where this is really applied is Umbria. By the way, I was born in Assisi, so you can, I was born in that region, although I live in Milan. Because in the other regions, the situation is similar. So there is a law, but then the law is not applied. But at least there is a law. You know, when there is a law, then you can start the process of having the law applied. And unfortunately, it is a long way. But if you think that still today, Microsoft is making around 25 billion. We'll see in July, but the last announcement from Microsoft was $25 billion out of Office project. Out of Office project, which means Office products. So you understand the level of political power that 28, we know politicians, you know, the political power of $28 billion for a politician is a huge power, everywhere in the world.
Okay.
Any other
Next question?
No.
No. Thank you very much.